We are hiring more and more security. We hired a lot of retired cops.
Some businesses tell their employees not to confront shoplifters, but Katsamatidis is taking a different approach.
You want to stay in business? You want to keep the store open? Do what you have to do.
Though the 30 Gristedes and D'Agostino supermarkets in New York City have seen a significant increase in shoplifting, Chairman and CEO John Katsamatidis says he won't close any. He's just upping security.
We are hiring more and more security. We hired a lot of retired cops.
Some businesses tell their employees not to confront shoplifters, but Katsamatidis is taking a different approach.
You want to stay in business? You want to keep the store open? Do what you have to do.
Just last month, the store manager here at 40th and 2nd says he went up to a guy stealing more than 70 pints of ice cream.
I fought with the guy. I grabbed the bag. The handle broke, and he realized that he can't win, so he ran out.
We're dealing with shoplifters. And many times that in my retail jobs, I've had to deal with them. And, you know, you get surprised every time they try something new or they're trying to do this. I mean, there's some of the stupidest stuff is from my hardware store days or home improvement days. So I worked for one particular home improvement company, whereas I worked the return desk. And guys would come in, grab a cart from in the store, throw stuff on the cart, come to the return aisle and says, I want to return this, I don't have a receipt. And some of the things that they just do is, at the times that they do this, is stupid. I mean, I recall an incident, and it didn't happen once, it happened twice within the hour. Guy came to the counter, he said, I want to return this. I mean, he had a bathtub on there. It was ranking almost about $1,000 worth of merch. And he didn't have a receipt. So now the thing about it is, instead of me ringing it in, normally you ring it in, and then the computer will automatically, without a receipt, it'll ask for a manager. It'll go to a suspension. Instead of me doing all that work, I just skipped it and went to get the manager, called the manager over, because I know this was not going to fly. And when you hear the end of the story, and it's very funny, the manager comes over and he asked me what's going on. I said, he's returning all this. He has no receipt. And he goes, you have no receipt? And he goes, no, I forgot it. I left it home. Okay. He looks at the product and he looks carefully, and he's looking at the cart and this is where the funny part comes in. He comes back and he says, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah. How did you get this cart with this merchandise into the store dry when there's a blizzard outside going on? And he couldn't explain. He's like, I got it from the underpass. He goes, no, because even on the underpass, the wind is blowing in and the carts would be very, very wet. So my manager would tell him, he says, listen, I'm going to keep this cart here. You're going to go home, get the receipt, and come back. I'm not letting you walk out the store with this merchandise. You're going to go home and get the receipt and come back. And the guy never came back. Not an hour later, another guy tried the same thing. And you know what the answer was. And it's kind of ridiculous, some of these thefts. There are people, that are walking out. They just walk in, walk out. And this happened at this home improvement store that I worked at, and they were walking out with power drills and stuff like that. The circular store. They would just walk straight out, Today, this is what's happening majorly all over the country, specifically New York, Chicago, California, Seattle. You're seeing it in those places heavily. Now, there's a company here in Manhattan, and I know they're pretty much around, I think, throughout some of the states out there. It's by the name of Trader Joe's. If you're familiar with Trader Joe's, it's a great place to get stuff. especially wine. They have such a great wine. Their independent wines are very good, especially the red. I love the red from theirs. Now we have one here on East 14th Street, and it's one of the popular ones on East 14th. And well, let me show you the video.
Did you pay for any of that?
Yep.
You did?
Yep.
You got a receipt?
Yep.
How come they were chasing you then?
They wanted the basket.
What?
They wanted the basket.
Oh, they wanted the basket.
Yeah.
Okay. Those two guys were chasing you from the store. They said you didn't pay for any of it. Why are you stealing it?
Because I'm homeless.
What?
Because I'm homeless.
For the homeless? What are you going to do with it?
Stop doing it.
What are you going to do with it? You're going to eat? You got more you took in there?
How far, Noel? Far, Noel?
Give my bag, man. I don't give a damn.
Yeah, that's right. This guy walked out with 10 steaks. 10 steaks. 10 packs of steaks. Didn't pay for it. Of course, the Trader Joe's employees couldn't stop him and nothing of nature. But, I mean, that's a lot of money that he took. Now, I understand if you're, this is more toward the situation whereas, like someone's stealing a pair of Nike shoes or a TV or something of that nature. If you're stealing a loaf of bread, all that, you're trying to feed themselves. But see, the thing about it is, in most cases, when someone tries to feed themselves, they don't overload themselves with it. Especially 10 packs of steaks. And I've seen this in New York, and this was prior to these major instances, where guys have stolen meats out of the stores. They go out and sell it for money in their pockets, for drugs, for alcohol, or for many other things. 10 packages of steaks piled up in his arms. He may keep one or two. He's selling the rest of them. These days, these guys are going into supermarkets. They're going into bodegas. They're going into pharmacies. They're stealing the hell out of everything. When you see, and this is in New York, and I know in some other places they're doing it, when they're locking up the candy.
Late at night, I kind of wanted some candy. I had not seen this before in New York City. Look at this. I know the Gillette razors are under lock and key. They're ridiculously expensive and very easy to steal. But did you know that Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, licorice, Jolly Ranchers, gummy lifesavers are under lock and key? I don't blame the stores. They're being ripped off left and right. I blame the media. I blame Joe Biden. I blame all the dishonesty that has been promulgated about cops. This is one of the results.
Could you believe this? That they're locking up candy, gum, and all other sweets behind plexiglass. We've gone to an insane moment. I thought it was crazy enough that, and I can understand, back when I worked in the home improvement, and this was when I was younger, back right before high school, as I started high school, I got my first job. I was working for a store, and they had just passed a law in New York City that they had to lock down spray paint. Because in the 70s and 80s, you had a major tagging problem on the subways, on the walls, on buildings, on that. So basically, they created a law that you couldn't sell it to a certain age, and the spray paints had to be locked down, in the case we put locks on them. I'm hearing now companies like Walmart are putting mesh alarm devices on the meat now. How crazy is that now, to the point where you're looking at people stealing meats and you have to spend money on loss prevention to secure the meat? That's just insane. That's just really insane. I mean, you hear stories like this out of mob films where they steal trucks with big loads of meat on there and stuff like that. And you hear that every once in a while. but not often. But when you hear the supermarket gets freaking, they tear up, the meat department and rip everything off out of there. The ham, the steaks, the burgers. It's a crazy situation, and this is things that have to stop. We need the police force, and I'll tell you, the mayor. That's another situation. Eric Adams. He just started, and already it's issues and stuff. This is a guy who's sitting there talking about social issues and talking about people not eating meat to buy plant-based food, which plant-based food in itself is not healthy because it's processed food. It has those MSG, it has salt, the salts, it has the sugars, the stuff that you say that it's unhealthy in frozen pizzas and all that. It's in the plant-based food as well. That's the stupidity of it. Has anyone heard, to get a head of lettuce, a tomato, some cucumbers and carrots, chop them all up, put a little onions, and put a little vinaigrette, or throw a little couple pieces of chicken on it. There you got some healthy stuff. These companies are plant-based eggs and stuff like that. And it's gone crazy. And for the mayor to concentrate on that and not concentrate on the thievery that's going on throughout the boroughs here in Manhattan, Queens, Staten Island, Brooklyn. The Bronx. Between that, the shootings, the rampant crimes in our subways. I think the other day someone got stabbed. Another woman they tried to rape her. There's a lot of shit going on right now. There was a child killed in a car accident as a car crashed through a building. There are a lot of bigger issues that are going on that need to be resolved. And if you're worried about who gets picked up, about the creed, the color, how poor they are, how rich they, if they commit a crime, they're committing a crime. I said, well, they may need it. It's still a crime. Has it gotten that far where they basically can't get, they're easier to get public assistance for most people because they're trying to push them on food stamps heavily in this state. Do they have that problem where they can't get food stamps? Or they can't get food assistance from food pantries? There are plenty of food pantries throughout the city. Churches, synagogues, a lot of people have been helping. I know donations have been rough on those agencies, but still, it's out there. Yes, we've had problems, supply problems throughout all the supermarkets and chains throughout the 5 boroughs, but we still have food out there. And there are plenty of jobs that are available to everyone. There are people who just don't want to do this. They just want to commit the crimes. And that's the issue itself. Quoting an old line, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. From an old TV show. An old cop TV show, Beretta. People think that, they're not going to put me away for a long time. They have to learn. That's the thing. They have to be punished. If they've done something wrong, they have to be punished. It's plain and simple. All this bail reform, they said, well, they can't afford bail. Well, then they shouldn't have done the crime. You're going to get arrested and put in jail. If you can't afford the bail, stuff like that, they're going to keep you there. And in most cases, some of these people that have committed these crimes have committed bigger crimes, and they've caught them on smaller crimes. It's like I've always said, Al Capone got caught on tax evasion, considering that he's had many people killed and done many major crimes bigger than the tax evasion charge itself. So I hope we resolve this in the next year, because this is just insane. This is just totally insane. We headed back to the 70s as far as the crime situation here in New York City. And I will always say this, no matter whether you like Giuliani or not, Giuliani cleaned up New York. He did a real nice job cleaning up this city. and it was safe. We were safe here in New York. There was still crime, but police did their job. People were prosecuted properly for what they did. You may disagree with some of the prosecutions and stuff like that. Yeah, but the thing about it is, they did break the law. You know, people feel sorry for people that low end crime. You know, I understand with the Rockefeller laws and stuff like that. You know, they went overhanded, but that's why you vote to change those laws. But still, though, you need laws in place to maintain the order from the chaos. And you're seeing what they're doing when they're decriminalizing all these things. What's happening? You got people putting drugs in their arms in the middle of the street during midday. People are getting mugged, getting hit, getting shot. You know, they talk about, oh, you know, we got to put up more rules for guns and stuff like that. No, enforce the rules that are on the books. Enforce the rules of the shoplifting rules. People need to go to jail. You know, in my retail experience, I've seen guys go to jail for 5 years for stealing over $1,000 worth of merchandise. And the reason they got 5 years is because it wasn't their first boat ride. Very rare you see someone shoplifting for the first time, and when you do, that's a different situation. And you could tell because they get caught very easily. They don't know what they're doing. But when you have someone, and this is in my experience, where they take stuff into a fitting room, and you could hear them in the fitting room and says, oh, they don't care, we'll get away with this. And meanwhile, we're waiting at the door for them to come out and basically hit that front door, and we arrest them immediately. You know, they got caught. They got caught. And it wasn't like a couple of things. It was 2 bagfuls ranging to about $2,500 worth of merchandise. A lot of it was expensive lingerie and handbags. You know, it continues. It continues. The things that they steal. You look at what they steal. And they say, oh, they need food. Yeah, they're not stealing a loaf of bread. This ain't Les Mis, where a guy gets a loaf of bread, you know, trying to get a loaf of bread to eat. This is people just trying to steal to make money off of it. Because in most cases, they turn around and try to return it into another branch of the store later on. And they try to sell that gift card they receive to someone else. They say, hey, listen, I can't return this. I'm leaving the city. And here, I'll charge you $100 for this. They may have like $75 or they'll have $200 on the card. Not realizing that person might get in trouble for that because basically we have that flagged. This happens. So like I said, we hope we see some improvement in the next year here in New York City. Shoplifters are taken care of. Hopefully we'll get back to a normal sense.